So, Alan, please introduce yourself and your company and where you're calling from today.
You got it. So, as you mentioned, my name is Alan Rowlett. I am a corporate vice president for Infios, and I'm currently leading the freight audit and payment division located out in the Chicago market. I do work from home, as you can tell, but that's where I'm currently residing. Infios, the organization that I'm representing, they are a forward leaning organization that is really focusing on the end to end supply chain execution. We're talking about warehouse, fulfillment, transportation, order management, kind of everything in between there. We service really those complex multimodal enterprises, manufacturers, retails, distributors, things like that. We even have partnerships with logistics providers, which has been pretty cool. And really, the core thing that we do is kind of what I alluded to, which is that execution at scale, right? And you and I have talked about it a little bit. As things get more complicated, more need for connection, more need for technology. That's kind of where we're playing in that space.
So, the name Infios, Infios. Sometime before, I've never known. I've talked to you guys many times, and I've never known whether to say Infios or Infios, and it's Infios. So that's a
That is
relatively
correct.
new name. Talk about what it's a new entity. Talk about what's under that umbrella, because I think everyone's going to recognize the names under that umbrella. I should say, you think you got rid of those old names.
Yeah, so Infios was a rebrand, as you mentioned, of a kind of collection of organizations that been acquired over time. The most notable would be MercuryGate as our TM solution. The reason that we did that rebrand is because a lot of the solutions that are in our portfolio, like the order management, the warehouse management, and as I mentioned, the TM, those were all either strategic acquisitions or builds that were going after a specific cause. But Infios wanted to be what I mentioned, that end to end supply chain provider. So they started bringing in all of these organizations together under one flag and then actually started complementing it with adjacent or kind of tangential services like freight audit and pay and things like that for our TM solution. So they wanted to have that end to end. They wanted to put it under a new flag. But yeah, a lot of the things like MercuryGate are well known in the industry.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the names underneath it, like MercuryGate, Kerber Supply Chain. One of the things people say on my podcast is they say, "Oh, Joe, we have end-to-end visibility," and I was like, "Oh, that's excellent. From where to where?" And they say from the time we pick it up at your factory to the time we deliver it to a warehouse or a retailer. And I was like, "What's that?" That's like 2 days. Like that's a handshake, not a hug. End to end for a supply chain could be 16 weeks. That that order might have originated 16 weeks ago with an order that went to Mexico or China or North Carolina, and it doesn't end until we get paid. I'm from automotive. I did a lot of lean work, and we always say order to cash. That's the business. Order to cash. And what happened over time is supply chain just developed a whole bunch of fantastic solutions. I call them silver bullets. The first time I saw a transportation management system, I was like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" And I remember presenting it to a potential customer. They looked at me like I was Steve Jobs. And I thought I might be. They were so impressed. But now we know transportation management, whether it's over the ocean or across the country, it's only one part. There's also the warehouse part. There's also the freight audit and pay. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
What we
the order management.
Right, order management, of course. And what we really need is interconnected transportation, interconnected systems. I don't want a whole bunch of silos.
You're saying it so much better than I could. You nailed it. That's where. Thank you for telling everyone who Infios was. That's where we exist, right? Order management, all the way out to payment and resolution or settlement. And I'm happy to hear you talk about those value streams like order to cash, procure to pay. Like that is my philosophy as well. That's how I lead the team. It's how I'm driving the organization. And I'm with you on that. If it can't be controlled in that entire flow, then you have gaps and handoffs that we need to address. And that's what we're trying to solve.
And those handoffs are sometimes why we have our data Some of it's in my email. Some of it I got text messages on, and some of it is in my transportation management system. And then I've got some of it over in a warehouse management system that I don't really get access to. Somebody says, that's fine. You just every morning log into your 16 systems and you're and then put it all into
remembering all of your
Yep.
passwords.
And then you just cut, copy, paste into a spreadsheet and you're back in 1995.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think we're going to get in more detail into this in a minute, but I think to have the speed that we want, to have streamlined systems, to get away from the freight fraud, the cybersecurity, all that stuff, we need to tighten up our systems and really need to be able to just talk about order to cash, not, yes, I have $1 million solution for my order management, but I don't have anything connecting me to the rest of the stuff. I don't think that works for the
Creates
big.
bottlenecks and flow issues, right?
Yeah. And by the way, that's where we run into more. Not only is it not streamlined, but it also puts us open to some of the hacks